Disclaimer, I love this show, and the reason I critique it is because I really wish to see it at its maximum potential. Also, a lot of what I'm about to say is by no means Dana's or her crew's fault. And finally, this video has spoilers for the future. So if you haven't seen it, what are you doing? Go see it now on YouTube. I'll admit it, when I first saw that episode a few days ago, I was ecstatic and so hyped for the next and final episode. But as I thought about it more, I realized just how off and slightly rushed it felt. Now the pacing isn't at all Dana's fault, and I want to join in to say, YouTube you Disney, for shortening such a good show. Note, I still really like this episode, but I wanted to give my thoughts on it as a whole, and without further ado, let's get started. We start off with a flashback of King from the final scene of King's Tide. We then see what happened immediately after the Hexside gang reached the human realm as the Collector takes over the Boiling Isles. I love the shot of Rain and Ida, and Rain's expression as Ida turns into Harpy mode. I also love the visuals and music as the Owl Beast takes over Harpy Ida. We cut to Luz in the in-between world, and a glowing figure is seen in the distance. I wasn't sure who this was, and initially thought that it might have been Caleb, but screenshots show that it is most likely a Titan, and even possibly King's father. The gang makes their way through the Boiling Isles, and reminisce at finally being back, at least most of them. Hunter is still understandably still on edge, probably because Bellows killed Flapjack just minutes ago. Camila is also trying to put on a brave face, but Luz adamantly says her decision to stay in the human realm is final. In the meantime, Bellows is making his way to wherever. He starts to hallucinate Caleb, which is very interesting, and I'm quite excited to see where this goes. The gang reaches the Owl House, and this is where I feel things went awry. But first, we get a great conversation between Camila, Gus, and Willow, where Camila expresses her worry about Luz's decision, knowing that it is impacting her negatively. We also see more of Hunter's angst and the start of Willow's stress. We then see Amity and Luz in Ida's old room. They have a nice conversation about Palisman and how to connect with them. Now, that is all we get with the Owl House. Personally, I feel that there was a missed opportunity to have Camila visit the room, or at the very least see the picture Amity found. I'll talk at the end of the video what I wished would have happened differently, so be sure to stick around to see that. Anyway, this is still a really good sequence. Hunter spots King, and the gang goes to Bonesborough, which is completely deserted. They find out what the Collector had been up to the whole time, and what happened to all of the citizens, which, as it turns out, the Collector had been petrifying the citizens to make them partake in his games of pretend, which models after Luz's adventures. This part was really cool, and I especially liked the aesthetics and childish behavior of the Collector as he casually toyed with people's lives. I also love how Tara acts as Ida, like this.
Who's got a pint of apple blood? Hoot hoot!
10 out of 10. Nevertheless, Tara gets turned into a puppet, and the Collector and King fly away. The gang realizes what's going on, and Luz exclaims that they need to go after them, to which a voice cries out that they would never make it, and that voice is Bartholomew? Okay, I'll admit it, I was pretty excited to see Bartholomew, Skara, and the dog. But what in the fuck were they doing there? It's clear that this wasn't the first time the Collector played his little game, and there was no need for them to take such a high risk to go to Bonesborough. So like, what gives? This all could have been cleared if they had just mentioned why they were out there, whether it was because they saw the gang from a distance, or they needed supplies or something. Anyway, we then get a flashback to Hexside during and immediately after the Day of Unity. We see the Collector's spies at Hexside. I'll be honest, I'm sure that if they all just hid, they would have been fine, but whatever. Basha and her friends attempt to fight against them, but her friends and all the adults turn into puppets, with Basha barely surviving. Oh, also, Bartholomew turned anime. We then get Skara's one and only line. Like, I feel so bad for her. I was really excited to see what the side characters would be up to in this episode, but yet again, they were just tossed to the side, and Skara once again was set up to have somewhat of an important role, but then just disappears. It's fine. Anyway, Belos is then seen going to a cave full of golden guard corpses. We see what are presumably the ghosts of all the previous Calebs as Belos attempts to find a body to possess. Wow, this went dark. Anywho, the Collector and King make it back to Mario's castle, where we meet Odalia. She asks if the Collector had a good adventure, to which he says,
I'm Adalia.
no, please no. Also, I was 100% sure that he said, I'm a doll, yeah, which really confused me.
I'm Adalia. I'm Adalia. I'm Adalia.
Odalia says some things, blah blah, doesn't matter. But then we get
Pizza. Bagels.
the Collector and King go to what I assume is their bedroom. I like the little conversation that shows how disconnected and unempathetic the Collector is to everyone else. He asks King to read him a story, and we get some lore about the Collector. I won't go into detail about it, but through the scribbled text, it is presumed that the current state of the Boiling Isles is due to a previous war between the Collectors and King's families, leaving only them two left. This is really cool, and I can't wait to find out more about what happened. We go back to Hexside, where we are introduced to Basha and Miki. I'm actually really embarrassed that I didn't realize that it was Kikimora. I also love the reactions of the gang as Luz announces her plans, with Hunter giving a somewhat perplexed look. Meanwhile, in the castle, we see King buy some paintings, which depict the Collector's family fighting against the Titans. King collects Hooty while meeting up with Ida, and we see Ida trapped in her prison. And this showcase of all the Coven heads in puppet form is amazing, and also slightly terrifying. We then meet up with Short Hair Lilith. Hooty and Lilith reunite, with Hooty continuing to prove that he is beyond the comprehension of us mere mortals. Back at Hexside, the kindergarteners are out in full force, causing havoc wherever they go, and Luz starts her plan to extract her memories. Back to Belos, and we see that his possession failed. He then freaking casually King Kongs up the Titan's tusks and reaches the Collector's castle. Wow, that sentence had a lot of alliteration. We see Odalia bossing Rain around when she exclaims about something that really isn't that important, when Belos drops in and possesses Rain's body. Okay, although it is kind of funny to see Belos scurry up the Titan's tusks, it was kind of weird how easily he was able to do it, and how there was literally no security despite it being there for Ida. But it's okay. At Hexside, we see Luz's plan work, and her memory is extracted. Hunter is exasperated and ready to go, but Willow attempts to calm him down with a picture of him. And Flapjack. Gosh darn it, Willow. Willow leaves thinking she has made things worse, and Basha is there ready to insult her. Oh, Basha, never suddenly change and completely go against your character with no build-up whatsoever, okay? Then the remaining members of the gang in the room gets attacked and kidnapped by freaking Kikimora. I really don't get why she, of all characters, is there. I would have loved to see some other minor villain, or even Skara, instead of her. I understand that it is in her character to want power, but I think it is a little too far for her, especially with what comes next as she and Basha drug the gang and throw them in the detention pit. Oh, and while all of this is happening, Belos possessed Rain goes to the Collector to tell him he's in danger. We go to the detention pit where things get heated between Luz and Kikimora, and Kikimora thinks that the best way to resolve it is to freaking blast Luz to smithereens. I also want you all to remember that Amity told Basha that this was too much, and she walks away. What's left of the gang and Bartholomew fight Kikimora, with Camila getting in on the action. They get separated when Camila attempts to do an ice cliff. Bartholomew and Amity get confronted by Basha, who is very clearly upset at Amity. And then, there is a great disturbance in the character balance, as if everything that was Basha's character was struck down in one fell swoop, and suddenly silenced. People are getting the idea that Bashi secretly liked Amity, and I mean, fair enough if the show wants to go in that direction, but I personally really don't like how it was implemented. Basha just does a complete 180 on her character, and there was absolutely nothing in the episode and the entire show that suggested this. In fact, the whole Basha and Kikimora sequence really confuses me. Again, I will explain how I personally would have liked things to go at the end of the video, but for now, I am just really lost. We cut to Hunter and Gus somewhere else in the pit. Gus moves ahead and plants suddenly start sprouting. Then, Gus makes one of the weirdest yelps I've ever heard.
Gus?
We see Willow dangling Gus as she frantically tries to undo it, unable to control her own power. We go back to Bellows' possessed Rain and the Collector, who is looking very bored. The Collector laughs at the idea that he is in danger, and Bellows tells him that someone close to him will betray him. The Collector assumes that he means King and checks on what he's doing. King and the group are brainstorming ways to defeat the Collector, when King makes a statement to solve things without violence. In the worst way possible.
Want things to go back to normal, the Collector needs to be stopped for good. And I think I know a more permanent solution.
The Collector starts to believe Bellows because of this. Back to Luz and Camila running for their lives from Kikimora, who, at this point, is just committing first-degree manslaughter. Luz and Camila have a heart-to-heart talk about mistakes, and Camila says her biggest mistake was trying to change Luz, alongside taking part in a pyramid scheme. Luz realizes that all she ever wanted was to be understood, and she connects with her palisman, which I don't really understand, but let's not dwell on it. Back to Willow, where she realizes she can't control herself and falls into despair. Hunter has an Anne Boonchoi moment and gains powers. He tells Willow not to be so hard on herself and to let it all out. The three escape and meet up with Luz and Camila, where they fight against Kiki Miki. Suddenly, the students of New Hexside appear, and they hold off Kiki Miki just long enough for Luz and the gang to complete the glyph and teleport to the castle. There, Luz's palisman is revealed, and I love how each character guesses what it is based off of theories from the community. And Luz just pulls a, guess what? It's all of them! String Bean, which is its name by the way, kind of looks like V, and speaking of V, throughout the entire episode, she probably is just on her way home on a bus or with Masha, which I find kinda funny. Anyway, we get a happy little ending as all of the palismen meet up, and we get a cute scene with Amity and Luz, and a final scene of Hunter and Willow, of which there were a surprising amount this episode. I hope nothing bad happens to them. We end off with Bellows and the Collector watching the little reunion. The Collector now fully trusts Bellows, and we end off with a snap. All in all, this was a really good episode, and the only thing I didn't really like was the Basha and Kikimora sequence. Anyway, let's get into what I would have done differently. Once again, please note that I'm a teenager that has zero experience in the film and animation world. What I say might be good or absolute titan poop, so don't take anything too seriously, and of course, leave your thoughts. So the first change I would have done is make Camila join Luz and Amity in her room after the discussion with Gus and Willow. It would have been nice for her to explore some of the nicer rooms, as well as see the photo Amity had found of Ida, King, and Luz. Next is Bartholomew's entrance. As I said, there should have been some line about why they were there in the first place. Personally, I feel that they should have said they were looking for food, as it would have implied how bad the situation was at New Hexside, and it would have made this scene a bit funnier. Next, I would have slightly changed how Bellows reached the Collector. Maybe he could have possessed a star, or at the very least seen them go to the castle, as he just somehow knows to go there. Then, instead of just waltzing in, he could say his evil lines and prepare to possess Odalia, but then the security activates and Rain would come flying at him. Bellows would then get the idea to possess Rain and proceed to do so. Finally, I would have redone the entire Kikimora Basha sequence. I'm sorry, but I just find it too weird for Kikimora to attack Luz after all she had done to save her and the Boiling Isles, which Kikimora most certainly knows about. Also, Basha, but I've ranted long enough about her already. What I would have done is made Skara or some other student friends of Basha her guard, and make it so that they are really scared of leaving the school and confronting the Collector after they saw what happened to the others. Luz would come in and announce her plans, and Basha would say it was too risky. Luz would still announce her plan to the gang, and Bartholomew would take them to the extraction room as normal. There, the same sequence would occur with Willow and Hunter. Basha would also still insult her as she leaves, but I would have made it so that Willow freaking snaps. Remember that she was incredibly stressed due to the situation, and Basha insulting her would have pushed her over the edge. I would have made it so that in her rage, she accidentally destroys part of the school, causing some of the kindergarteners to escape and alerting the Collector's spies. The group would have been split up again, as one tries to save the children while the other fights the spies. During this, Willow could still have her mental breakdown, and Hunter would still save her, similar to the episode. Luz and Camila could be chased by one of the spies, similar to how Kikimora chased them, and in both situations, the same thing would occur, in that Hunter gets his powers and Luz gets her talisman. All the while, Amity and Bartholomew would be pleading with Basha to help them, but she would refuse, especially since Willow attacked her. However, news would come that the kindergarteners escaped and that the spies were nearby as well. Basha would then grudgingly team up with Amity to rescue the children, and the students of New Hexside would hold off the spies long enough so that Luz could make her teleport glyph. Again, I understand that it is probably due to time restraints that these weren't viable, or they are just dumb, but hey, they are what I think. And with that, I thank you all so much for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. See ya!